What's up, everybody? It's Izzy, and in today's video I'm going to cover a topic that may be old news to some of you, and some of you will probably consider it fake news, but I'm talking about pre-workouts and caffeine and how they're not just completely positive the way that some people make them out to be. So if you ever watch like recommended supplement videos, even if it's like the kind of person who's like, supplements don't work, they'll always recommend like three things, like creatine, a whey protein powder just for convenience, and then some type of pre-workout like caffeine pills or something like that. And I think it's important to note that actually there are some negatives that are associated with the regular consumption of caffeine, and I want to get into that in this video and why I'm personally going to take a break from all caffeine and see how it impacts my training and see if it's better overall, which I suspect that it will be. So in my opinion, pre-workouts are very frequently abused. Some people take them for every single session, even if they don't have a lack of sleep or a lack of energy. They just like the way that the pre-workout makes them feel. And of course, there are benefits to caffeine. Caffeine is a known performance increaser, particularly on squats and deadlifts. Some people can get, as much as like a 5 to 10% boost when they take a sufficient amount of caffeine. And I'm generally talking, something in the 300 to 400 milligram range. Caffeine in high enough quantities is actually banned by WADA, the World Anti-Doping Agency, and that's something that you should probably consider. In sufficient quantities, which I believe it's like a gram, so it's an absurdly high amount, it's banned in competition. That's because it is, again, a performance enhancer. But the side effects are not 100% beneficial as far as training goes, particularly recovery. And there's two reasons for that as this airplane goes by. But the first reason is that caffeine, for most people, has approximately a half-life of 5 to 6 hours. Now, for some people, it's much slower, and the rate at which caffeine is processed by the body varies pretty dramatically amongst people. And some people just do not process caffeine quickly at all. And these would be, the caffeine-sensitive types who can't take caffeine within 6 hours of bed if they want to get any sleep at all. But considering that caffeine in most of you will have a 5 to 6 hour half-life, we're talking about, after 12 hours from taking caffeine, there's still 25% in your system. And most of you do not take caffeine 12 hours before you go to bed. Many of you take caffeine anywhere from, let's say that you're working out after you get off work at around 5 to 6 p.m. and you go to bed somewhere between 11 to 11 p.m., 10 p.m., midnight range. That's really giving you, exactly 5 to 6 hours. So 50% of what you've ingested is still potentially in the system. And even though some people can fall asleep with a large amount of caffeine still in their system, it impacts sleep quality. And this is not up for debate. This is a fact. So one of the things about that is that, of course, people are very bad judges of when they are sleep deprived or when their sleep quality has been reduced. They've done so many studies on sleep that it's ridiculous, but time and time again, people in significant sleep deprivation basically can't even tell that their performance has decreased. Now, if you're one of those people who is tired all the time, even after you sleep enough, and you just take more and more caffeine to get going again, it's obviously a self-perpetuating cycle that gets worse over time. And here's the thing, there's a difference between, say, like drinking a cup of coffee or like a latte, which might have 80 milligrams of caffeine, and taking 2 to 3 scoops of pre-workout, which could potentially have anywhere from 300 to 600 milligrams of caffeine, which, if you just do the simple math, that's anywhere from like, 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 times the amount, depending again on the pre-workout and the amount in a standard latte that you're getting. It's a huge amount that absolutely impacts your sleep. And for me, I've recently switched over to a 6-day training split where, I'm training 6 times per week. It's an upper lower split for the most part. So I'm doing upper body 3 times per week and lower body 3 times per week. So it's nothing crazy. I'm not talking about like some Bulgarian system here, but it's training pretty frequently. And I've begun to notice that without my usual 4-day split with days off before every main session, my sleep quality is always affected. And unlike many of you, I work out pretty much first thing in the morning. I wake up, I eat, answer emails for about 30 minutes, and then I work out. So for me, you know, I take my pre-workout something like 14-15 hours before I go to bed, and it still impacts my sleep. Not that much, but if I ever have an afternoon or evening workout, it dramatically impacts my sleep. So sleep is obviously the biggest thing here. People just I don't understand why people underestimate how important sleep is, but I already made an entire video on sleep hygiene, and I'm not kidding you when I say that you can dramatically improve your recovery by maximizing the quality and quantity of the sleep you're getting. Like, it's a dramatic thing. It's on par with, it's more important than being in a caloric surplus in my experience. It's, in fact, you know, people with poor sleep, in some instances, depending on what they're taking, are going to have, people with poor sleep who take performance-enhancing drugs, depending on what they're taking and the quantity, will have worse recovery than someone who's getting perfect sleep every single night. So for me, with the sleep issue being the biggest reason that I really want to cut out the caffeine, especially when I'm training 6 days per week and it's affecting my sleep 6 days per week, the other part of it is that caffeine artificially, if you will, puts you in... artificially activates the sympathetic nervous system, which is the part of the nervous system that's responsible for fight or flight. The relaxation part of your nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system, which, you know, it's called the rest and digest part of the nervous system. And again, caffeine will artificially keep you in that sympathetic side of the nervous system for a longer period of time. And again, with the half-life of 5 to 6 hours, you've got a pretty good amount of caffeine in your system for that 5 to 6 hours, and you're not going to as easily get out of that, you know, quote-unquote fight or flight mode into relaxation, where recovery begins to happen more intensely. So if you are doing a more high-frequency template where you do train similar muscle groups on back-to-back days, which occasionally I do, you're cutting your recovery down from 24 hours to 18 hours. Or if you're a slow digester of caffeine, it could be you could be cutting your recovery in half. So overall, I'm not saying that you should never use pre-workout, but it should probably be periodized to an extent and used on your most important workouts on your competition sessions. Because here's the thing, using caffeine will increase the amount of weight that you're able to lift, but it'll also increase arousal, your ability to get aroused, and the combination of both of those things will make each training session that you do more stressful. So it's kind of eating away on both ends, right? You're lifting more weight, which is more stressful on recovery. You're getting a higher level of psychological arousal due to the caffeine. Again, more stress, so harder to recover from. And then it's impacting your sleep as well. So you're not only having more stress, but you're recovering more slowly and worse from the stress that you've applied. Now, again, I'm not saying that you should never take pre-workout. It can significantly improve performance on your main lifts, but it's definitely something that you should consider in a plan. Don't just take it every single time you work out. Probably limit it to your heavy sessions on the competition movements only. And if you're a person who is one of those unfortunate souls that metabolizes caffeine slowly, you may want to consider just not taking it except for at meets or on testing days or in, you know, the final weeks leading up to a meet, so that you can get used to the feeling of being on the caffeine again. But I guess the point that I'm making in this video is that personally, due to the fact that I'm training so often and I do seem to metabolize caffeine more slowly than the average person, and it's affecting my sleep every single night on this new training split, I'm actually going to go ahead and just try to get rid of it completely. And my training program has so much volume in it right now that overall I believe that the reduced weights won't quite matter as much with my current frequency and my current volume. What will be more important is the improved quality of sleep and the increased recovery time that I have from each session. And overall, I think it's going to be a net win, but we'll see. I'm going to give it at least, 2 to 3 months and see how it goes. And I guess will report to you guys on how it went at that time. But for now, I'm definitely going to be completely cutting out caffeine, starting with my next training block. Anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. As always, my friends, have a nice day and good luck with your training. Peace.